Evolution banned away from RNG. They say, we don't want none of that funny business you played last night. It is the Melio and the Yuumi ban on blue side, so no handshakes tonight. And the Nico and Vi banned away by EDG on the red side.
Yeah, so a lot of bottom lane focus from RNG out of the gate, and I don't really blame them. I imagine this does push the Aphelios priority super high. Zeri also on the table, and like you mentioned, Vi Nico from the red side. Not too unfamiliar with that one. I wonder what EDG are looking to remove away last. They could have just taken the Aphelios away, but then I think at that point, it makes the Zeri so powerful, maybe you don't have a consistent answer, but also the Annie's still available. So that's going to be the first pick up here for RNG. It does give EDG and Uzi the ability to pick up that Aphelios, which he has played so much of since his return. And I think that will be almost an inevitability here. It just depends on what they actually want to pair it up with. Lulu also still on the table.
Interesting to see how much RNG have opted into either the Annie or the Ahri for Tong Yuan. They are just going to first pick the Annie, which still gives so many options over to EDG. And what did we say? They want to chokehold you. The way to do that is use some roots from nature, and Maokai will be the first pick for EDG.
Yeah, absolutely. So much strong objective control, map control, right? That's what makes Maokai so oppressive at times. If you have a lead, even having to deal with, you know, what is a very nerfed version of Maokai from all the way back on 13-1, right? Dealing with the saplings, the empowered damage can get so obnoxious, and they're just going to pair it up with the Jace as well. So even more poke, that was also the combo, same combo from the start of the year. And RNG are going to take the opportunity with that rotation from EDG to snap away the Aphelios. So Uzi's going to have to show us something, you know, not particularly new out of his champion pool, new to this year, as the Wukong also comes through. So RNG already have very strong snap engage, team fighting from the Annie and from the Wukong, and of course the strong scaling from the Aphelios. Potentially eyeing up now Uzi, the Xayah. I think it would make the most sense in terms of what he's looking at as well. A lot of strong burst damage means that if he can ever get a very well timed off Feather Storm, the peel and the turnaround damage could potentially be huge.
And the safety that you have there is so big. The spacing that you already have drafted for EDG is going to be monstrous. And I really actually appreciate Fofo's Jace. Also with the Maokai combo, you're, again, so oppressive around the objectives every single time you're approaching them. And you actually don't mind if the enemy team is trying to take it first, right? You actually prefer to be the one that come out of the fog of war. So interesting now that we're getting the support focus here. Don't want to give any roams available to Mako, but also trying to take some of these big heavy picks off that Lulu and the Rakan themselves.
Yeah, you want to try and hamstring the 2v2 now, don't you? Because the mid jungle is, you know, one that's going to be a little bit irritating to deal with outside of lane. I think for RNG, we mentioned how, you know, EDG on the opposite end want to play this very constrictive and suffocative style of League of Legends. I think RNG have a very strong combination and comp right now to actually break that apart, right? We spoke about wanting to try and upset the tempo early on to make EDG have to kind of sweat a little bit in the early game, and I think champions like Annie and Wukong can definitely do that, obviously specifically around the level 6 mark, but Jace can be very vulnerable early on if this ends up in Fofo's hands, which we expect it to. 2 ganks, right? So I want to see RNG focus around that mid lane for now. Focusing back in on the bans, we see Thresh also taken away, so another safety net removed from the Aphelios. I wonder what EDG are going to go towards, because the support pool is quite pinched. Nautilus is basically the, you know, premier engage support still up and available, so that will get locked in for EDG. And I wonder, yeah, I was going to say if we just get Lu Mao's, Leona, but also Braum could be a very, very strong defensive option if they want it. It kind of depends on how RNG view this game right now. If they want more engage to stack on top of that Wukong Annie combination, you go the Leona. If you want a stronger lane, you go towards the Braum.
True. The Cassandra is still open, though, and it's going to be picked because every time it's open, there is a possibility of it just getting locked in instantly. I also want to give a highlight to the Renekton ban. We've seen the ban rise up in priority now because we've seen ridiculous Renekton plays every time that pick hits the rip. So just crazy. Glad it's gone. That thing is insane. Also pretty good against Cassandra as well, so not going to give EDG the option. We also get that Braum instead of the Leona for RNG.
Yeah, so okay, focusing in my mind a little more towards the laning phase as well. You can also stop the feathers coming out from the Xayah in the trade, so it does make the threat of the pullback a lot less threatening as EDG looking towards this Gwen here. And I think it just makes so much sense, right? You've got 3 very short range champions, 4 technically, when Aphelios doesn't have green gun, and I feel like there's very limited ways to actually deal with this Gwen pick. So it's got a strong lane and it's got a very strong angle into some of these team fights later on. So I like this R5 from EDG here, because now it's something that RNG consistently have to worry about if they're not winning the game super early on through the mid jungle, or potentially winning in what should be a strong 2v2 on the bottom side. They're now going to have to contemplate dealing with a Gwen who should operate very happily into the composition that RNG are running.
And this all of a sudden turned into an Ala game. Here, I think we have some nice little scaling factors, but the fact that Gwen made it all the way through and will have an insane time on the Rift. I'm so excited to see how this kind of comp works out, especially that we have maybe a little bit more fighting given over to our top lane matchup, but all eyes for me are on the mid jungle duos. We have a lot of proactivity given to both Wei and JJ, and those pillars are going to start building up here for both teams.
Yeah, both pillars indeed. I think super important on both sides, right? JJ needs to have a good early game where he's tracking Wei and ensuring that he's not allowing Wei to attack some of these lanes. And for Wei, he needs to try and slip around JJ and some of the map control the Maokai can afford you a lot of the time, and actually impact these lanes, get the game going super early on for RNG. Not that you don't scale particularly well,
yeah.
It's just that I feel like EDG scale harder, so you want to try and get EDG on that uphill battle as soon as possible.
Exactly. It's going to be an intense battle here. We're hitting the Rift, and you never thought you'd ever see it in your entire life, but here we are. It is real life. It is Uzi versus RNG. It is Uzi in an EDG mask trying to take down his former organization, the organization he has known all of his international success with. Here we go into the Rift for game one of what will be an absolute slobber knocker as we help and celebrate the Dragon Boat Festival. I'm hoping for some fireworks, Jamada.
I think we'll get them, plain and simple. I can't see this matchup not being super bloody, even 3 games, right? I think given how both teams have been playing, even though EDG definitely, you know, have been looking to play that slower, calculated version of League of Legends, as I'll hold my breath, Lumar should be fine. On occasion, they will overreach just a touch, and that could give RNG a window in. And I think with champions like Wukong, with champions like Annie, all it takes is that one brief misstep. All of a sudden, there's a Tibbers on your head. All of a sudden, you're knocked up twice by the Cyclone. So, EDG, we'll see how they handle it, as looking to maybe just poke and prod for more information. But RNG have such a strong level 1, Braum, Annie.
You know how you counter that level 1 though? You just play with aggression, you play with confidence. You can't engage on me because you don't want to. That's what they said.
Yeah, there you go. But EDG just looking to see how much information they can actually grab. But junglers both starting on the bottom side, so potentially will end up straight up just pathing towards this top side matchup. You mentioned it could just be an Arla game. I kind of agree with you. I think if this Gwen goes untouched for a very long time, we can definitely see it take over the game. And I'm very curious to kind of measure exactly how well Breathe does in this matchup, because you do often sometimes see Cassante, it will eventually lose, but sometimes, right, just before that level 6 window, you can have an okay enough time to a point where you can just about survive.
And I know we foreshadowed to it earlier, talking a little bit about the track record of this split, not only looking at those storylines, and we were saying, you know, 3 and 4, both teams looking to try to get to that 50-50 mark here. But it is a little bit about that story so far, right? EDG, they have lost to all of the top teams, and they only faced them once in the split, right? TS, LNG, JDG, BLG. Those are tough losses because you will not be able to check yourself against those teams until you get to playoffs if you make it. The thing is, the easier schedule is coming. And I think that's where EDG can ramp up some momentum off a couple wins and really find some success. Where on the other side, RNG, it's been up and down. While for both teams up and down, the last loss against TES was a heartbreaking 2-1. I think they're still trying to find where their right footing is.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think for EDG, like you mentioned, all those losses coming against those bigger hitting teams here in the LPL, I think the reality of the situation is, you know, sure, the expectations weren't particularly high in spring until they absolutely shattered them and came third. So I think for EDG, even though they've lost against these big teams already, so long as they place themselves in a comfortable position in playoffs, which the stability has started to come through now, they should be happy. And for RNG, it's kind of almost an inverse, right? You would maybe expect EDG to be kind of finishing this split potentially around the 5th, 6th, 7th mark, depending on, you know, how quickly the turnaround is with Uzi coming in. I think for RNG, it's about kind of finishing slightly below that, but being able to take out EDG so early on whilst they're potentially still in their rebuilding phase would be huge.
Look at Wei, the sword and general, making it happen in the top lane against Ala. We'll see if they can get this gank off and get first blood. We'll see the flash and a nice knockback. First blood straight to Breathe.
Yeah, that was so nice from Breathe, flashing forward there, staying inside the shroud of Ala to ensure the knockback comes through. Ala tries his best to try and get away from it with his own flash, but unfortunately still gets hit by that Q3. Really nice from Breathe. And we said both junglers starting on the bottom side, pathing up toward the top side of the map. EDG would have been privy to this because they saw the ward get swept away. Unfortunately, not anticipating Ala, and he goes down first blood.
Not able to be put into a chokehold just yet by their early aggression. That's exactly what you want to see from RNG. We'll actually get a look back at Wei's pathing, coming all the way from the red side here onto Ala, not even expecting it.
Yeah, but look at this flash, right? Stays inside the shroud. He's about to exit it. Q flash into the shroud. Really, really solid from Breathe. Would have been super easy to just try and coin flip that one, right? Hope it lands, but make sure he flashes forward, gets the connection, staying inside that mist, and secures in the first blood. And he's going to walk back to lane with a Sheen and a Ruby Crystal, and that's going to help out those trades significantly. Right, I think the annoying part about that matchup 1-to-1 can be that Gwen can very easily stack up the Q on the minions and then kind of just walk up to you and get that full stack Q damage. But if you've got the Sheen, you can at least trade back evenly a lot more often and a lot more consistently. So that should help out his lane a lot.
And then I see this early move from Mako. It's got to be some early dragon priority for EDG getting onto the map. Maybe just getting this trio on lock from the mid lane would be super beneficial for EDG.
Yeah, definitely will be. See how often we get to see these movements up from the bottom lane as well. Of course, in my absence, we've had the minion changes as well, right? Where minions all kind of hit the middle of the lane at the exact same time, regardless of what lane it's in. And there was a lot of talks over in the LEC about, how that kind of impacts, support openings and how they're able to actually roam. And what you'll see a lot less of from what, feedback we've seen from some of the LEC supports is that opening onto the map and then kind of just running straight to mid is a little more punishable now, right? Sometimes you might see jungler slip down towards the bottom side of the map when that happens and actually just pick up a free kill because the support might still be in that mindset of being able to go up towards that mid lane off of a reset. So keep on tracking that. There will be a lot more about who gets priority, and it should be LP and Lu Mao as the trade goes through and no concussive blows get stacked. But Uzi really wants it, man.
Just trying to find a little bit of aggression down here. You got JJ coming to see what he can do about this guns matchup down here. You got both guns drawn. We'll see if LP can make it happen against Uzi. We'll get locked down. Does have that cleanse burn. Lu Mao burning that flash. We got the summoner spells across the board here. And RNG actually surviving a bit of a gank.
Yeah, it's just so awkward to engage onto this duo though. Right, from the perspective of JJ, if he goes onto LP, he gets the cleanse. It gets blown early in this case, so he's like, all right, you know what? Because he's in the position he's in, I'll go towards Lu Mao, but he still has flash and heal as well. They get all the summoner spells out, but it also costs Uzi his own cleanse, and they also gave up the potential dragon setup for that as well. So, unfortunately, there's not going to be an immediate payoff unless they can get back down towards there sooner rather than later. We saw Breathe as well on the top side, with some of the jungle focus being towards the bottom side, just giving the proxy of the wave, right? Just ignoring that Gwen matchup entirely in the 1v1.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's going to be something you can ignore for the rest of the time. Yeah, it might be something you want to check in on a little bit later on. As we do get level 6s coming up for both Wei and JJ very soon. I do expect that tempo to increase as Wei is actually already hovering down bot side.
Just trying to see if they can get into the river here uncontested. Priority is secured. And again, because engaging onto the Braum can be so difficult, it does mean that RNG will get first move here into the river, and I wonder if EDG even consider contesting it, given where JJ is walking off to. It seems like the immediate answer is just going to be no. So RNG should pick up this dragon for pretty much free. It's not as if EDG are on the top side of the map already on top of the Herald, so could see RNG also try and make a solid rotation over towards that top side, right? Breathe has been securing priority in these first couple of levels since that gank. They could turn it into two very quick objectives for RNG.
Also, something very important there, that LP had red-white going into that. And I know you just came from Texas, so maybe did you get any warnings about any wildlife? Maybe there's some warnings like, red-white don't fight, green-white don't fight, 200 years don't fight, anything like that? Maybe some rattlesnake warnings that you got while you were in Texas?
Some rattlesnake. I mean, you know.
Do you know what to do
it
if
was
you hear
just-
rattlesnake?
No, what do you do if you hear a rattlesnake?
You run. You run
Oh,
away. As
No,
soon as you
fortunately,
hear
I
that
didn't
rattle,
have to
you
deal
don't
too
need
much
to
wild
find it. You don't
whilst I
need to
was
see
out
where it is.
in,
You just run away.
in the Great Plains of America. But RNG, they care about wildlife because they're just slaughtering all
you
these
don't think
neutrals,
they do?
man. Dragon's gone, now the Herald being picked up straight away. JJ's here
That's
to try
the
and 50-50 this.
wildlife.
Ala and EDG rotating into this one, Mazel. It's a 50-50.
Ooh, it's in a little bit of trouble. The Nature's Grasp comes out. The Rift Herald has gone down. The health bar, they're all out there for Breathe is huge. And LP has already picked up JJ. You do have that fight from Allah still going. He's trying to get over the wall, flashing. He makes it out alive by the skin of his little teeth.
My goodness me, just skips out barely. Ala, but EDG, they lose their jungler and they lose their Herald as well. LP actually picked it up amongst all the chaos, and he's on the top
Sneaky,
side. He's got
sneaky.
green and white, right? So if he can actually get on top of this tower, he can get so many solo plays for himself, because EDG are still resetting. He had to drop Chakram, unfortunately, but he's still going to get a solo play here. He can drop the Herald and get an additional 2 plays. So this is so much gold being injected
That is
into the
actually.
Aphelios off the back of this play.
And the control ward just buys more time as well. And there it goes. I think there might actually be one more attack. There you go.
Yeah.
Maybe get one more in there. Able to get a nice
be able
little
to.
chunk of gold. You see that amount of gold, though, going over 1,200, almost 1,300 over to LP early on before 10 minutes.
Yeah, that is very, very scary. Should be able to hit his first item potentially off the back of that. I mean, to be fair, it doesn't have Cole and B-Grief, so can't quite get over the mark just yet. But back at this replay, I think you called out the fact that Breathe gets the all-out so quickly, but I think this knockback is also super insane. Finding 2 into immediately just taking JJ out of the fight, chunks him down solo, but it also brings him into LP's firing range. Everyone's already inside the mist, so Ala not really so safe in there. Manages to make that flash. It's a bit of almost a chunky one.
Man,
The Chakrams
that
don't
was
take him
so
out.
close. But this is exactly the style play you want to see going into EDG, right? They do want to have control. They look so good when they have control. But if you punch them in the mouth, they can't necessarily get all that control. They can't wrap their hands around you. So Tong Yuan maybe wanting a little bit of help here from the rest of his team. EDG will still be able to punish you, so they get one back. But that is the style you want to see from RNG if they want to continue finding advantages.
As the saying goes, Mazel, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And I feel like if you're RNG, that is exactly what you need to be doing consistently. But right now, EDG just gave him a slip and a bit of a uppercut towards the mid lane. So Tang Yuan is going to be in the death chamber. Has teleports come back out onto the map, and Fofo has to go back to base. So I wonder if this opens up a small window where RNG actually get lane priority through mid and move up towards this top side. Because that tower's so low, it's just standing gold waiting to be taken. And JJ right now, he's pathing towards the bottom side.
And talking about JJ as well, right? Like ever since EDG won that world championship, with that run in particular, JJ was a constant for me for EDG. He has been what they have really been able to build around, because he does provide you so much strength from the jungle and a lot of versatility as well.
Yeah, sorry, I was just giggling at Luma playing with Uzi there, making him take a tower shot. But you're right? Since that Worlds victory in 2021, JJ really has been, you know, for me, one of the individually strongest junglers here in the LPL. I think in spring as well, even though EDG didn't quite make it across the finish line to the top 2 for MSI and finals. You know, JJ, in my head, was arguably the strongest jungler we had in spring. Of course, then we had MSI, and hey, Knavi and Shun, they can play League of Legends pretty damn well too. Who would have thought it? But for EDG, he is often the one that is able to command a lot of the plays, and a pick like Maokai is going to continue to do that as mid lane. Could have some scrapping, flash is blown.
A little bit of a glacial fissure going through, so a couple moves from Lumao, actually trying to get something proactive onto Fofo mid lane. He does have to burn that flash. That's something you can absolutely revisit for RNG, but also gives you a little bit of pushing power there. Maybe you want to get some vision around this dragon.
Yeah, definitely can. You know, to force him out like that, and because it drew the attention there of the bottom side of RNG, it means that they will lose priority in the river right now. But Breathe just taking this tower, has teleport in 14 seconds time. If RNG can keep the dragon alive for that long, maybe he can get involved, but Seems like EDG, they're going to burst it down.
What did we say? There's a snake in the bush, so LP's got red, white, and you know what that means. They're going to be able to not even use that one chakram needed to kill JJ, and EDG just wanted to get out of there.
Yeah, they got the dragon, they completed the heist, right? Made sure that Breathe also couldn't come and join the fight with a teleport, it was still down. So just completing the play very quickly, they sacrificed JJ's life. It feels like...
Is this just a bait? Tell me right now, when we look at this, is this baiting Mako? Is this the reverse-a-roo bait? Because you see somebody backing on a ward. Okay, I don't get to speak because Fofo's about to solo kill Tong Yuan.
Wow.
And he will just get that slam down. Fofo solo bolo.
Yeah, I wonder how that even came to be, to be honest with you. But Fofo finds himself the solo bolo. I think Tang Yuan is still chunked out from the dragon as a whole. Hadn't reset yet. Just pays for his
Tell
greed.
me though, is that a bait when somebody's backing on the, but you just have to go stop them? Like there's something in the brain that clicks. You're like, they don't know that they're on a word. I have to go mess with them.
I have to go. Is the famous line as
Allah's about to.
Speaking of going, Allah's going somewhere. I'm not sure where it is.
Might be to a grave, as Needleworks won't stitch you together this time. The flash might just do it. Nope. Flash from Wei ends his life.
Gosh, how funny would it have been if Wei just face planted the flash then?
Sorry. Stop that. You come on.
Intrusive thoughts won. I'm sorry, Mazel. But
you let them
they
win.
find that
you
pick.
let the dark thoughts win.
They find the pick. It's not really going to get them too much, right? It's just going to be a brief window now for Breathe. Just go for another reset and buy a little bit of space. They're actually going to teleport, so maybe it does give them a window for this play on the bottom side.
Yeah, a bit of a play onto Fofo, who's trying to take down Tong Yuan again before Breathe and the rest of RNG take him out. As this is a pretty heavy commit of resources, but there's really no answer besides a mid lane push from EDG right now. So Fofo buying a lot of time, but a Rift Herald maybe potentially on the upswing for EDG.
I mean, you say that, but JJ's down here taking chickens, man. He's hungry. And EDG aren't on top of that Herald on spawn. That could have been potentially the cross map, right? But because EDG were actually on the bottom side in part whilst that place was kicked off by RNG, means no cross map is actually fully available. Now RNG are going to be able to slip in, get mid lane priority, and then secure vision around this objective and make it really difficult for EDG to actually find any kind of foothold. And I think that could continue to be a bit of an issue here for EDG, right? With champions like Maokai and Jace, and even to a degree Xayah as well, right? You want to be in the river first. You want to be at the objective first, so that the enemy team has to walk into all of these, you know, annoying poke tools, right? Whether it be the shock blast or the saplings, but also then if you're funneling yourselves into a choke, what are you setting yourself up for? The pullback from the Xayah. If you're never first move, it never feels the same. And RNG, I feel like, have got that code cracked right now and are consistently pushing them out of the objectives.
It's really good stuff, but you're going to have to be a little bit careful as things start to come online for EDG's comp. Approaching those objectives is going to be a little bit more difficult, but we do have a little bit of downtime since we have this dragon going away. And I do expect there to be that uptick once this next dragon comes, because a lot of priority can be given, and we've seen it rise, at least in the LPL recently, of these kind of early dragons. Not necessarily early in this game, but trying to get those stacking objectives so you make those decisions a little bit easier later on in the game.
Yeah, I think the fact that we're 1-1 apiece could mean that for EDG, you're very happy to give this one up. And just continue to scale up, right? Actually hit some breakpoints here. Fofo hitting 2 items, finish up the Manamune completion into Muramana. JJ, very curious to see what build he's going, because he's got the Eventrail first. Now, I've not been keeping up with what Pro Maokai's been building, but I do remember a couple of weeks ago we were seeing some Maokai top come through, and it was a lot of Eventrail, a lot of Abyssal Mask, and Sunfire and things like that. And it's a
We've
lot
also
of
seen
additional amped up
APs
damage.
sometimes, demonics and stuff like that occasionally.
It could also just be Eventrail into Demonic Embrace, right? But we'll see exactly where he lands once he starts to pick up a few more components. But it is, you know, the kind of build where you're looking to just basically amp up the damage of those around you. And honestly, Maokai can stand to lose a few resists if it means making a team deal an extra 2,000 damage off of your items in a team fight.
Now, we did see in the gold graph, the player gold, at least on the left side of your screen earlier, that Breathe had the most gold in the game. But how are we feeling about the Feed the Puppy comp right now for LP? I know it's facing Uzi, so maybe a little bit less than that, but I think it's funny to mention because obviously the moniker coming, Feed the Puppy, get the ADC ahead, was something that Uzi developed. But LP on the other side looking like a stalwart companion right now.
Man, it's so weird to think about that, isn't it? Because even as you've just said it, I recall that being a thing. It was like RNG all the way back in 2015,
It's not
2016.
Kog'Maw, but you know, it works.
It's not Kog'Maw, but it works in 2023, baby. And yeah, so far, RNG, at least, you know, organization side, keeping that moniker up, right? LP very, very far ahead. And I think that gap between the two AD carries in the terms of gold will continue to remain for now. As
But that's
RNG,
where I... Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, RNG is still in control of the map, and they will pick up this dragon. EDG technically cross-map it on the top side, so there will be a little bit of gold traded over, and it does go into Arla's back pocket, who he highlighted as, you know, the player who could make this game a little bit difficult for RNG. So we'll see how the trade itself turns out over the next couple of minutes.
See some trading going on, especially with Baron on the table here. Not going to be a threat just off the rip here, but that's where you know, we were kind of jokingly talking about the feed the puppy style. But looking back at legacy and history for Uzi, right, that is still one of those things that's connected between RNG and Uzi, and that's what makes these kinds of matchups so enthusiastically awesome, because you see so much of that history behind it, so many of those, you know, world-making moments, things that people around the world that are League of Legends fans know Uzi for, know RNG for, and it's a different page. It's not that same look anymore, even with the same names on the Rift.
No, it's a different game from, you know, the peaks and the highs of Uzi's RNG career from times gone. So it does, again, it feels surreal seeing him, you know, in 2023, not only under the EDG banner, but coming against RNG in this setup. And I think so far handled himself well, but again, I think RNG have kind of had a very, very good read on this game as a whole and how EDG like to play generally. And I think just being able to shut down the core facets of how a composition like this wants to function, being first 24/7, RNG have done a very, very good job at ensuring that Uzi hasn't really been given the resources perhaps that he would like to try and take over a game, while simultaneously handing all of that gold into LP's back pocket.
And that's crazy to me, like we were talking about, like kind of game styles, the evolution of not only the players but the organizations, right? Where we've gone through many iterations of RNG's recent success before Gala, before Xiaohu, before Ming all departed, right? Like it was focused on other members besides Wei. Wei and Breathe are the only members that are left to represent all that success that was had after Uzi's era with RNG. And on the other side, EDG are still looking for that success post their world championship.
They're trying to find that reignition of the candle, right, for EDG. And I think with Uzi now in, it does make me wonder if that, you know, particular level of veterancy is going to help them out, right? I think that there was a pretty interesting balance for EDG coming into the year with kind of that rookie slash, you know, having JJ and Mako in. But I think now where we're in a meta where I feel like experience can definitely, you know, pull through, where it's so often just kind of front to back, being able to be a vocal player who can, you know, make very tough decisions, very quick decisions, be like, yo, I need this, I need that. And I imagine that Uzi certainly can be that kind of player with the tenor underneath his belt. Does make me very hopeful and faithful for EDG running into the future. In this game, however, being 5k down and with not much map control, I feel like they could be staring down the barrel of something pretty awful if RNG continue to give them a little bit of a taste of their own medicine, Medzel, and continue to suffocate them out.
In those stories, though, there are those mainstays, and really what we've been focusing on for this split, particularly for both sides, it's Wei, JJ. We've seen so much growth from these guys, not only in just this recency, but also in the past years. And I think it's just always really cool to watch evolution of an organization turn to where players become so important for them, become keystones. Welcome back, brother. It's Gwen's immune. All right, Gwen's immune.
You know, Gwen was immune that time. Wasn't very immune at the gank, but Breathe already at 3 items. Losing that all out, though, does feel pretty big. And if EDG decide to take a 5v5, it's a pretty okay window, considering Breathe is basically the strongest member on RNG right now. Without that ultimate, his level of threat is significantly lower, as Arla, despite being down an entire item, has managed to take this tower in front of Breathe's face, as well as mind controlling Breathe to use his stone plate, apparently.
It's Nasher's tooth death. No big deal. It's still something that RNG are going to have to reckon with. Yes, they have a lot of pick out potential. Yes, they have LP, on Aphelios, which is huge, and their team fight is kind of nutty. But it's going to require a really big bar of execution because EDG's comp is going to come online, and their team fight is nuts, especially if you're the one starting up the objective, and RNG are in prime position to be the one to be starting up the objectives.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a battle, I think, for both sides. If EDG can actually get in the river first at least once, then I feel like they actually stand an okay enough chance. But so far, again, you know, it's so hard to take priority away from an Annie who has passive, from Braum standing on top of an Aphelios, when you don't have ranged wave clear to actually remove that wave from the equation. Now RNG again on the objective first, and EDG have to check in, but this dragon is getting bursted down so fast, it's gone.
Red-white with the chakrams makes it so. Nature's Grasp comes in. They got to re-engage. They are just getting heavily taken down. Allah's on the flank here, but he gets immediately bursted down by LP. It's Uzi right now that is the saving grace, but there is no damage to be had as LP flashing forward and making good against the legend of the league under his team's moniker. LP will rise to the occasion and take them down. RNG with a nice old sweep of the leg of EDG.
And LP doesn't care about any of those old dogs of history. He's gonna clown himself off with a quadra kill team fight to make things even sweeter for RNG. A Baron will be picked up, and this base could very well be opened up here by Tang Yuan over in the mid lane. And I think that could be the T crossed before the I is dotted, and this game is wrapped up for the first one of the series for RNG.
6-0 stands LP against Uzi in this first game. What a way to step up, and a huge pick out engage from RNG here. They just turned straight onto Allah.
Yeah, Allah had nothing to say in that team fight. And I mean, you know, we said that potentially he could have a very good game, but it just doesn't matter. LP started off this team fight with like 5 or 6 chakrams stacked up, found an ultimate as well with the Moonlight Vigil. Look how many, he's like a blender right now. Gets hooked in by Mako, and that kind of signs off his own death warrant, as unfortunately, when he's in all out, Brief can go over the walls for Uzi, and that very well could have easily been a pentakill cleanup for LP. Finds 4 anyway. Now RNG have full control.
Top laner sees ADC, top laner kills ADC. That's what I know, all right? That's a constant.
Yeah.
Feels ADC, man. RNG are looking at the bottom side, though. They will be taking out another in-hit tower, should be at least, as they still have 2 minutes on a Baron, and that is the death knell right now of EDG. They are just trying to get something with Fofo in the side lane, but they have to defend their base or the game's just over.
Yeah, base in tatters right now. Second tower on the bottom side opened up, and I mean, I think RNG are very aware of the map state right now. It's going to be a double teleport.
We see a little bit of re-engage potential here, but the Infernum is doing some work as Bree tries to go back in for the engage. Can't find it. There is an inhib to take down for RNG, but another minion wave is coming right down, Jamada.
Yeah, another minion wave on its way from the bottom side of the map. There's 2 cannons here. There'll be a third one, I'm pretty sure. So this tower will get poked down. And actually an engage. There you go.
27-minute game. There's the big combos, and the damage is there from RNG. They say, damn your narrative, damn your history, Uzi. We step up to the pace. The page has been turned as RNG in game 1 in triumphant fashion.
Gonna make easy work of EDG by the end of it. And, you know, we spoke about gameplay styles and how, for us, EDG, you know, on this soft rebuild here, kind of been playing it slow, suffocating teams out. I've used the word maybe a few more times than I'd like, but ensuring that there's very few options over the scale of a long time